All right. So, hey everyone. Many of you know me, but for those who don't, my name is Haley Euler. I'm the president of SETBP1 Society, and I also have a 12-year-old with SETBP1 haploinsufficiency disorder who was diagnosed in early 2016. And out of the lack of community research and resources that were available around the time of his diagnosis, then SETBP1 Society was formed, with the focus of bringing families hope and creating change for the understanding and future for SETBP1 HD and related disorders. So I'm thrilled to be joining you this evening and to introduce Dr. Trina Geye and Kelci Hill from Tarleton State University. Dr. Geye is a strong advocate for our SETBP1 community and associate professor in the Department of Psychological Sciences. She is also a co-principal investigator for the SETBP1 Community Research Study, otherwise known as SCoReS, which is why we're here this evening. And she's also served as a volunteer on our SETBP1 Society board since its formation. Kelci is a research student for Dr. Geye, and she plans to join a genetic counseling program next year. So Dr. Geye, thanks for joining this evening. And would you like to share a bit about yourself and the SCoReS program?
Sure. I don't have a whole lot to add. I've been involved with the SETBP1 community, like Haley said, for several years, and I'm just thrilled and honored to be a part of this group and look forward to learning as much as I can from you guys and hope that you'll feel comfortable asking us any questions and reaching out anytime you have any needs.
Thanks, Trina. So for this evening's presentation, Kelci will present and then be available at the end of the presentation for questions. So during the presentation, you're welcome to type any questions that you have in the chat. Please ensure to keep yourself muted. Also, just to give you a heads up, this is being recorded. So if your video is on during it, then you may be a part of the final recording that we share out. So just keep that in mind. And otherwise, I'm going to pass this over to, I'm going to hit stop share first, but I'm going to pass this over to Kelci so we can hear about the next phase of the SCoReS study.
Okay, can you all see that?
Yes. Okay,
perfect. So this is just going to be a little bit of an overview of what the next couple of weeks are going to look like for y'all. This next phase consists of 4 different assessments that just help us look at your child's behavior patterns and functioning on a daily basis. And I'm just going to give you an overview of that. So first, we just wanted to take a second and say thank you to you guys. Without your participation and dedication to this study, we wouldn't be able to do any of this research. And your participation really helps us get closer to understanding the needs of SETBP1 parents, as well as addressing the behaviors and characteristics of children with the SETBP1 difference. So a little bit of background. This is a SCoReS and Tarleton State University collaboration, this research. And it started with phase 1, which was comparing parental stress scale scores for parents of children with and without SETBP1. Phase 2, which the results are actually being shared currently on social media. And that phase looked at the parental needs surveys, and it looked over categories such as equity and care, practical care needs, relationships, and emotional well-being. Phase 3, which is where we're at now, is going to be distributing these 4 assessments known as the DP4, BASC-3, ASRS, and the Brief 2 to better understand the behaviors and characteristics of children with SETBP1. So like I mentioned earlier, this is just going to be an overview of these 4 assessments, what they're going to look like when they come to you, how they're going to be sent to you. Each survey is similar, but also different in their own ways. And so it's very important that you answer the questions honestly and to the best of your ability in order for us to collect accurate data to review later. There are 4 surveys again, but you're only going to be given 1 link at a time. So we're going to follow you each through this process individually, and I'll be emailing you guys little reminders, and each link again separately. Also, the number of assessments that you'll be asked to fill out will depend on your child's age. So a couple surveys only go up to 18. So if your child is above that age, you won't be asked to fill out all 4 surveys, and vice versa. Some start at 2. So if your child is under 2 years old, you also will not be asked to fill out all the surveys, but that's on us to keep track of all that. So you don't have to worry about that. Just don't freak out if you don't get 4 surveys to fill out. The first step that you guys will be receiving in an email is going to be a quick survey to fill out. Upon completion of this survey, your consent will be given to go on with the study. So it's just a Google form that will be emailed to you with directions to fill it out. It asks a few basic demographic questions, and then that will begin your participation in the research. So once I get that consent form, then we can start sending you the link to the first survey. If you do have more than 1 child with a SETBP1 difference, you're going to be asked to go through this process twice, but we will again reach out to you individually and let you know what this process will look like for you. So one of the first surveys you're going to be getting is either going to be the DP4 or the BASC3, which we'll get to in a few minutes. As you can see, this survey goes from birth to almost 22 years old, just under 22 years old. So this is a really broad survey. It stands for the Developmental Profile 4th edition. And the goal of this assessment is to just help us identify children's strengths and weaknesses in different settings, such as your home or the classroom, etc. This is the longest survey, which is why we like to get it out of the way in the beginning of the process. There's 190 questions, but it is simple yes, no questions. And they estimate this takes about 20 to 40 minutes to complete. So it's not too long. Like I mentioned earlier, you're going to be getting emails from us along this process from SCoRES@setbp1.org. And also, I want to make a note that you guys are going to have access to this presentation to refer back to because it is a lot of information. So just keep that in mind. But when we start the sharing of the assessments, you're going to get an email from SCoRES, and the subject line is going to say, please read. It's going to provide you with a link to the consent form and then instructions to look out for an email from the publisher for DP4, which is WPS. If you don't see this email from SCoRES, just please be sure to keep an eye out on your updates tab or your junk and spam folders on the side, because sometimes the emails do get lost there. When you get the DP4 link, we ask that you finish these assessments in 14 days. That gives us about 2 weeks to follow you through and stay on track of the next 3 surveys. One of the other surveys that will be given in the first half of this will be the BASC, the 3rd edition. This again goes from 2 years old to 25, and so it's a very broad age range. The BASC stands for the Behavior Assessment System for Children, and it helps us better understand the behaviors and emotion of children and adolescents. This is longer just in the fact that the questions are more detailed. It's 29 questions, and you'll answer with responses such as sometimes, often, never, or almost always when it asks you questions about your child's behavior. They estimate that this takes about 20 to 15 minutes to complete. So for this assessment, this is what the email is going to be formatted like. It's going to come from the Q Global Mail Services email accounts. And you're going to have 14 days to complete the survey again. For this one especially, I noted that you have to allow pop-ups on your computer. So that was tricky when I was going through it. And then this email also went into my updates folder. So be sure to keep an eye on all of your junk and spam folders and tabs in your email. You can complete this survey on the computer or on your phone. And if something happens in the middle of it, you can exit out of the questionnaire and you can go back to it at a later time. It'll save your spot and it won't ruin anything, any data collection. So the third assessment that we're going to ask y'all to complete ranges ranges from ages 2 to 18. So a little bit of a smaller age range for the autism spectrum rating scale. This assessment will help us measure behaviors that are associated with the autism spectrum disorder, and it is 71 questions that usually pertain to different scenarios, again, in your home, in a classroom, with other kids, whatever the questions may be. And it takes about 20 to 30 minutes to complete. So this one is definitely shorter. Like this one is a lot shorter of a survey. This is what your email will look like coming from noreply@MHS. And again, keep an eye on all your mailboxes. You will have 14 days to complete the survey. And this can also be completed on either a web browser, a desktop computer, your phone, and you can also exit out. So if something happens, there's no worries, it will save your spot in the assessment and you can come back to it at a later time. The final assessment that we're going to ask y'all to complete for us is only for children between the ages of 11 to 18. So if your child falls outside of that age range, you will not have to worry about this survey. BRIEF stands for Behavior Rating Inventory Executive Function, and we're using the second edition. And it helps us better understand the child's functioning and their behavior patterns, again, in different settings. These questions will ask you about your child's behavior, and you'll answer with the answer choices of never, sometimes, or often. This tends to be the quickest survey. It takes about 15 to 30 minutes to complete. And this email will look like this. It will come from No Reply again. So like I said, we'll be sending you emails from SCoReS to be on a lookout for these specific email addresses, to check all your inboxes, because this also went to my updates folder, not my primary mailbox. So again, we ask that you complete these assessments in 14 days from when you get the link. And then this can also be completed on your computer or your phone. Again, if something comes up in the middle of it, you can always come back to it because it will also save your spots in the assessment. And that is the overview. So if you guys have any questions, go ahead and you can unmute yourself or drop them in the chat. And for more information, you can go ahead and visit this address right on the bottom of the screen, or email scores@setbp1.org to express your interest and get involved.
Thank you, Kelci.
Yeah.
So we have some great surveys that we're going to be sending out, as Kelci said, to the community. I'll say that just to add to Kelci's presentation, that as these phases have been coming about, and we completed phase 1 and we completed phase 2, different characteristics and behaviors of our SETBP1 kids have come up as concern areas where parents want to know more. And so this phase 3 was dictated based off of results from the previous phases. And then all of these surveys, they just, they have to come from these different providers of these surveys. So they make it hard on the team, on Kelci. And so she'll just be sending additional emails to help you know, okay, what do I look out for? We wish it would all just come from SCoReS, but they didn't make it that easy. So we do have a question that came through. It's a great question. The question is, do you need to complete phases 1 and 2 in order to participate in phase 3? And Kelci, do you want to take that one?
Sorry, I muted myself. No, you do not have to complete phase 1 and 2 to jump into the third phase. They are related in a sense, but they're also individual each phase. And so if you're interested, like I said, go ahead and send an email or visit the link and we'll get you started directly on these surveys and assessments here.
Yeah, so you'll come in right at this point on phase 3. And for those who have participated in phase 1 or phase 2 or both, the consent form is the same. Just to give you that heads up, but it does help to just go ahead and for everyone just have everybody consent again, but just giving you that heads up if you've already completed it in the past. And then are there any additional questions? Kelci mentioned, setbp1.org/scores. There's a form. It's just name, email, and it'll send an email directly to SCoRES saying you're interested in joining the study, or you can send an email. Also, for our participants who participated in the past, then we'll also be following up with y'all as well. But I'll give y'all another chance. See if you have. Oh, okay. Yeah, this was another good question. Thank you. So, are there country limitations? As one of the individuals mentioned, they live in Portugal. So if you don't mind, Kelci, I might take this one. So there's not country limitations. Unfortunately, this phase is limited to English. So it doesn't matter where in the world you live, but these surveys were only available to us in English. If we have families who speak another language and are interested, there may be, and we have enough of a specific language in the future, we may be able to bring in some of that, a study in that specific language. With SCoRES, we do try to be as inclusive as possible, and we've had some of these surveys we've been able to distribute in multiple languages, which has been great. But because these are such standardized, the way that these are standardized, they are currently only available in English. But great question. And any other questions?
The other thing I will say really fast is when you get that first email with the consent form, I will add this document as a PDF. So you guys can have this to refer back to in that email, as well as a PDF of the consent form for y'all to refer back to in your inbox.
You can, yes. If another question, as long as you understand the questions in English, then yes, you're more than welcome to complete the surveys, even if your native language is not English. I will say if the questions are confusing, then and you speak another language, maybe send an email to SCoRES at setbp1.org and we can see if there's some way we could help support you. And we'll see if any other questions come in before we wrap this one up. No, we really appreciate y'all taking the time out of your evening to join us.